残酷な天使のように少年よ神話になれ青い風が今胸のドアを叩いても私だけをただ見つめて微笑んでるあなたそっと触れるもの求めることに夢中で運命さえまだ知らない痛いけな瞳だけどいつか気づくでしょうその背中には未来目指すための羽があること残酷な天使の手で窓辺からやがて飛び立つほとばしる熱いパトスで思い出を裏切るならこの空を抱いて輝く少年よ神話になれ
Has this ever happened to you? Do you wish to kill every last one of them in your next playthrough with a build that cannot be touched? I present to you the Dimitri solo. Through this video, I will be showing you a summary and highlights of my Dimitri solo playthrough. Through the beginning of this playthrough, Dimitri is not solo, rather he is accompanied by Byleth. They do the first 6 chapters together. This is so that when Dimitri is absent during chapter 6, Byleth can take care of Death Knight. There are a couple of subsequent exceptions where Byleth is involved insofar as it's necessary because of the way the game's designed. For example, chapter 14, where Byleth mandatorily spawns in, and enemies will attack her no matter what. Also, I cannot keep the left side of the map contained because I do not have the adequate movement speed with Dimitri, who is swamped with enemies as it is. Another example is chapter 9, where Dimitri has to deal with Geralt, who rushes in and dies, who is a necessary condition of winning the map for him to survive. So I have Mercedes used as a healer with Physic just to keep him alive long enough. Additionally, paralogs and auxiliary battles are not guaranteed to be solo, as the paralogs sometimes merit playing even though they do not have perfect solo, like in the case of Legend of the Lake. Furthermore, the auxiliary battles allow you to train with adjutant ability Dimitri to get unusual skills like Dark Mage, Dark Bishop, Life Taker, training your reason, even when you're not going to use him, who is not typically a good mage, as a dedicated mage. You can still access these classes and their class masteries by training him as an adjutant. The first chapter is rather difficult because you are on even footing with all the other enemies and you have no control in the manner in which you engage them because the first set of enemies attacks you no matter what. What's more is that you have to take on 2 enemies at once with little in the way of avoidance and tools that you'll get in later chapters to protect yourself against meritable enemies like Claude and Hilda, and finally Hubert, Ferdinand, who is a speed demon, and Edelgard. If you can get through this chapter by whichever means you choose, you have to get through chapter 2, which is a heavily RNG based chapter where you have to dodge enemies, successive waves of enemies that will rush you. And if you can get through these 2 chapters, the rest of the game should be comparatively easy. As discussed with the method of adjutant grinding, there's also grinding with Dimitri himself, using rusted weapons and using the classes that you're trying to train, as well as the skills that they are related to, like riding for Cavalier, for example. And you use grinding with a broken weapon against a priest, or later on in the game you just use your own AVO and a broken weapon to grind until you have the desired skill level. This is a very practical and important way that I got certain skills up early in the game, like getting Byleth's bow, archery, up to an adequate level to take archer, so that I could use curve shot and take on the Death Knight at the beginning of the stage of Chapter 6. For Dimitri's case, brawling and authority were important skills to grind early on because brawling is a very practical skill with weapons like the training gauntlets that have low weight, and brawling gives you access to healing focus, which can substitute vulneraries as an every single turn healing item that costs nothing except waiting, and it's independent of the supplies you carry with you or purchase. For leadership or authority, the importance there is that I get Battalion Wrath, which allows me to have 50% critical chance early on in the game, so that when I dodge in my enemy phase, I can crit against somebody, and I have a good chance of dodging compared to the other resources I have because I'm using a brawling combat style. Subsequently, when you have brawling class mastered, you have this style where you might be using a mercenary Dimitri around Chapter 5 and dodging enemy attacks and then critting them using Battalion Wrath because your battalion endurance is low. You have to be careful because battalion endurance can go down to 0, and then this ability is lost, and you have to rely simply on healing focus. This run is inspired by the successful solo runs of Omega Evolution and Mecha, who ran Byleth on Silver Snow. With these runs, it was purely solo, whereas with Dimitri, it is a matter of trying to get it as solo as possible to meet a standard of solo, while recognizing that it's not possible to keep the game completely solo, given the nature of Dimitri and not having him on Chapter 6, necessary deployments like Byleth. But I think you'll find that with varied characters, you can adjust the rules and try to live up to that standard, and it can make an interesting challenge that comes with a variety of different things you have to work around, like, is this mage character going to be able to dodge? Is this character going to be able to do enough damage? Do I have to deploy 2 characters? Things like these, I think, can make for interesting playthroughs that shake it up, even when you're normally playing through a game with full deploys. As a more experienced player since my first playthrough in Maddening, I think that a solo playthrough is easier because you don't have to worry about characters that are optimized as player phase glass cannons that are the weakest link defensively in your gameplay style. In this case, you have maybe 1 or 2 characters that you have deployed on the map, and for most of the chapters, the game is thus easy because you can just dodge enemies with your avoidance, and they can get Alert Sand Plus through adjutants. So I think that a solo playthrough is ultimately easier because the amount of avoid you can get will make it superior to what you can do normally with all your characters coming up with a host of benefits and weaknesses because you're really concentrating skills into 2 characters. Put another way regarding difficulty, it's pretty cool to get through a map with a character that you built through knowledge of the game's mechanics to be really powerful and make the game easy. But it's also cool to get through a map through skill with a very poorly built character. If you want to see me mix it up with more Three Houses solo playthroughs of your favorite characters, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and have a good day.